In solo leveling, as Drippy Woo is busy watching the memories of the previous Shadow Monarch, a group of hunters arrives at the entrance of the double dungeon as the guild leader of the Hunters Guild says how there's tremendous amounts of mana coming from the gate. Hunter Choi asks if Rizzy Woo was inside. Jin-Chul responds saying he's positive. Mommy Cha is confused since the mana leaking from the gate isn't Drippy Woo's, asking herself who could it belong to. Jin-Chul starts flashing back when Rizzy Woo said he wasn't the one who cleared the double dungeon, confused as to why he came back here. It can't possibly be a coincidence, he said as they open the gate, getting absolutely shocked after finding the room completely destroyed. Jin-Chul couldn't believe his eyes. The statue of God and the stone sculptures actually existed after all. The architect senses the presence of the humans, saying that he didn't recall inviting them here. This is another unexpected surprise, he said, staring down at the hunters with a menacing look. The hunters are freaked out, asking themselves if they were just hearing things since a monster just spoke their language. With a smile, he tells them to shut the fuck up, telling them how dare they disturb the king's nappy time. The hunters are confused as to who he referred to as king, and look towards the direction where Drippy Woo is just standing there in front of a large crater without moving a single inch. One of the hunters asks what he was doing over there, but suddenly gets slashed after the architect cut down 3 nameless hunters in a single slash. Mommy Cha is in complete shock since she couldn't even react to his attack. The architect laughs, saying that these strong humans would make a great offering to the king, referring to Rizzy Woo, who was still watching the memories of the previous Shadow Monarch without knowing what was happening outside. Both the Shadow Monarch and Rizzy Woo seem to be looking at a certain direction. 2 giant red and blue gates that look like Gojo's hollow purple can be seen. Out of the blue gate, an army made up of demons came marching out with the flags from clans such as Ricardo, Peitos, even the Radiru clan, which this girl came from. Out of the red gate, an enormous-sized wolf came walking out, towering over an army made up of beast monsters. The Demon King Baran, the Monarch of Flames, and the King of Beasts, Monarch of Fangs, both face off against the Monarch of Shadows. Next time, in the next episode of Solo Rizzy Leveling, back to reality, the healers try their hardest to heal the hunter, who was struck down by the architect as Choi Jong-in orders them to take the wounded to the back, yelling, "Here they come," as the stone statues get ready to attack. The architect tells them that anyone who is still alive by the time his puppets collapse, they would be given the great honor of witnessing the king's birth, if any of them manage to survive, that is. God's statue starts activating his laser beam ability, leading to Hunter Choi telling everyone to watch out. He shoots out an enormous blast, completely destroying everything in front of him, but Hunter Choi manages to dodge the attack, activating one of his spells, which hit the statue right in the face with exquisite speed. Hunter Choi shouts to his subordinates to use this chance to destroy the statues while the big statue is distracted by his attack. Jin-Chul launches himself forward as fast as he could, hitting one of the statues right in the mother face, but gets shocked since the statue didn't move a single inch after taking his maximum powered punch. The statue's face suddenly gets blasted as the S-ranker Choi shouts, saying that the statues had a high resistance to physical attacks. But since the spell he just used had absolutely no effect, it meant that the statues also had magical resistance. The hunters are extremely overwhelmed, saying that none of their skills such as taunting or psychokinesis work against the statues. The guildmaster tries to think of a plan quickly, or they will all die in here. He suddenly looks towards the direction where Rizzy Woo is standing, thinking that they need to wake him up since he's the last option they have left. He launches a spell towards him, attempting to wake him up. But as the spell is about to make impact with Rizzy Woo, the architect steps in, blocking the attack, completely shocking Guildmaster Choi. The architect launches himself towards Choi, yelling, saying how dare he try to disturb the king in his slumber. Multiple hunters rush out from behind him, blocking the architect's rampage. Jin-Chul quickly shouts towards Mommy Cha, telling her that they would take care of everything here and that she should go wake up Rizzy Woo. She dashes towards him. As she's about to reach him, the panel cuts over inside Drip Woo's mind, where a battle between the demon clans and beasts versus the Shadow Army ensues. The Shadow Soldiers revive infinitely, no matter how many times they're destroyed, leaving Drip Woo astonished, since if it was him, his mana would have run out long ago, almost like he has a bottomless pit of mana. Both the demon clans and the beast monster army were slaughtering the Shadow Soldiers in a 2v1. Jin-Woo asks himself if either the Shadow Monarch wasn't on the same side of the monsters, or there was internal conflict among them. As the battle comes to an end, the Shadow Monarch walks towards the defeated leader of the demon army and says how they had the chance to end the war today, asking why he betrayed him. The defeated commander responds, saying that it was a shame since he didn't manage to kill him in the end. With a serious face, the Shadow Monarch asks again, "Why did you betray me?" making the demon start laughing as he looks up, speaking an unknown language. The monarch couldn't listen to the demon's yap session any longer as he extends his arm outward and pulls the demon right to his hand. As the monarch chokes the demon's neck, the demon says his final words, but the monarch don't want to hear that weak shit, so he crushed his throat completely. Drip Woo looks into the demon's eyes, which seemed familiar to him, and as the monarch drops him to the floor and takes his helmet off, it's revealed that the leader of the demons was the Demon King Baran, who he had defeated back in the Demon Realm arc. As Drip Woo's vision gets blurry, he asks himself what he was doing here, staring at his arms, revealing that he was in the previous Shadow Monarch's body. His heart starts beating rapidly as he looks to see what it was. A weird, shadowy energy formed on the right side of his chest, where it can be seen that Rizzy Woo had two hearts. In a strange Shadow Monarch state, Drip Woo turns back to see that multiple rulers had arrived on the battlefield, as the playback of retrieved data ends here. Back to reality, the architect says how impressive Mommy Cha is, telling her to go beyond his design just a little bit more. Mommy Cha activates her sword dance skill, exciting the architect to no end. As the clash between them ensue, the architect starts laughing maniacally, yelling, "That's right, just like that!" Mommy Cha's right shoulder gets slashed, spewing blood, disappointing the architect, asking if that's all she had, saying it was expected since they're humans after all. The architect states how the system he's built can predict and respond to every possible outcome, meaning they won't be able to defeat the statues with the feeble attempts they've presented thus now. "I guess you can't do any better," he says in disappointment. The architect suddenly gets a blast to the face as the leader says they have to wake up Drippy Woo since there is no other way. Mommy Cha suddenly dashes towards the unconscious Rizzy Woo, only for the architect to launch an attack against her, but she manages to dodge it in the last second. The architect commends her for dodging his attack, saying it was impressive, but suddenly notices that there was a lingering shadow soldier hanging around in Mommy Cha's body. The architect says how it can't come out because of the rules of the dungeon, but its existence isn't doubted. He is surprised the king planted a shadow soldier on her, asking what her relationship with Sung Jin-Woo is. Mommy Cha responds saying that she's a friend of Rizzy Woo and that she came to save him. The architect laughs, saying that it wasn't something the king did and offers her an opportunity. Today is the day where one of the greatest monarchs would descend upon this world. The architect gives her the chance to witness this glorious event, but every single one of her little friends will die right here in this dungeon. A sudden voice could be heard in the distance saying, "Not today, buddy," as Drippy Woo punches the architect square in the jaw, dislocating it completely. As the architect's body crumbles, Rizzy Woo asks, "You, what have you done to my body?" since he now possessed an extra heart instead of one. Jin-Chul, Guildmaster Choi, Mommy Cha all feel relieved since the one and only Rizzy Woo finally descended to the battle. As the architect's body slams into the ground, he says, You are not the king," asking how is it even possible that he's here instead of him, and how he was able to regain his consciousness with the black heart inside his body. Rizzy-Woo finally realizes that the reason why he gained such an absurd amounts of mana just now was due to the black heart, which had raised his mana from a mere 9,000 to a whopping 100,000. Judging by his reaction, he can tell that the black heart wasn't the architect's doing, and that it wasn't meant to be used to his benefit. The recalled data also didn't answer all of the questions he had. He tells him how he said he was against him becoming a player, but what exactly is a player? The architect refuses to believe the situation until he realizes something which made him start crashing out, screaming, "How dare you, Shadow Monarch? You think the other monarchs will just let this happen?" Drippy-Woo pulls out multiple daggers, pointing them straight at the architect's face, telling him to answer his questions. The architect starts laughing, saying he sure is an unpredictable one, and said that he has an idea as to why he was the one chosen by the system. The fodder hunters are in utter disbelief, as the statues that hadn't moved thus far started waking up. The architect states how if he were to be killed now, no one would be able to stop his puppets. Drippy-Woo asks what would happen if he killed him, and then his puppets. He responds saying that if he killed him, the architect of the system, I could return to being an E-rank hunter again, Drippy-Woo said, cutting him off. He said that he thought about it, but the existing system won't fall apart. If the architect disappears now, would it? The architect is in utter shock since Drippy-Woo called his bluff, saying that if that's the case, he would just forcefully, before he could finish his sentence, messages appeared blocking his access even though he was the administrator. As Drippy-Woo stands there exuding aura, he said he once thought about it, devouring the entire system whole. He says how his design isn't perfect after all as the architect starts shouting, "How dare you!" But before he could continue yapping, Drippy-Woo had cut him to pieces. The architect before his final breath said he had a prophecy for him. When the pillars of fire that hold the heavens are raised, there will be an inevitable death approaching your way. Sung Rizzy-Woo looks back with a cold look and says, "As you please." Hit that follow thing.